Here.
Angela Woodward.
Here.
Dan Lawson.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening and welcome everyone to the March 18th meeting of the Ashland City Council. We have just completed our charter review meeting, which went very well, I might add, and I'd like to thank the members of that committee for agreeing to meet with us and take part in that historical civil duty. So to all that were here, again, I thank you. We have a full house this evening, so thank you for being here, everyone. To our viewers at home, welcome. Members of council, Mayor Miller, Attorney Wolf, Director Paxton, welcome all. First item on the agenda will be the approval of the minutes from the Tuesday, March 4th meeting. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections to those minutes, I'll ask for a motion to approve as submitted.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Minutes will stand approved. First ordinance this evening will be an ordinance revising the City of Ashland, Ohio indigent burial policy and declaring an emergency.
Move for none, reading in full.
Second.
Thank you.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Good evening.
Evening, Mayor.
What you have before you this evening is a revised policy of our indigent burial policy that has been in place for several years. There were some grammar changes that needed to be done in order to update it, as well as we have done a survey of these services being provided by others in our jurisdictions that adjoin our community. And in doing that, we have discovered that the $850 cost that we were paying for the service providers to perform this was a little inadequate. The cost of doing that, providing that service, as you can imagine, utilities have not went down, but in doing that, it does raise it up to a equitable account or amount that will be a little more palatable, we believe, for the service providers who do that for us. The important thing is that we, unfortunately, these folks do not have the resources to complete that process, so the families do not. And the state law does require public entities to address those services as best they can. So by doing that, this revised policy hopefully allows the service providers a little more not profitability, but a little more equitable funding for them for providing that service, because as you can imagine, it's a difficult period in time for families anyways. And to do that, why we believe that this policy will helpfully help that process a little bit.
Certainly.
So last year, we started to hear from some of our area funeral homes that nominal fee of $850 caused them to come up short in many instances, where it didn't begin to cover the expenses they had in the burial process. So like our finance director says, after doing his research, we find that the $1,200 is probably reasonable.
Definitely. I've always told my kids, never ask anyone to give away their trade. And wouldn't expect anyone to work for free, actually. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve on the first reading?
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
I'll move to suspend the rules for 3 separate readings, 3 separate days.
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye. Motion to approve the ordinance?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Ordinance 25-25.
Next, we have an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor, director of public service, to enter into a consent agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for partial depth pavement repairs and pavement marking updates on I-71 in District 03, PID 123505, within the city of Ashland, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Move for non-reading in full. Second.
Thank you.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
These past several months, you've started to see more pieces of legislation that look like this. Basically, what this is now when the Ohio Department of Transportation does work within the city limits of the city of Ashland, they require that we give consent. And even though it will not come out of our funds, it will be covered entirely by the state budget, they have to have permission in order to complete the improvements in our jurisdiction. This particular consent agreement deals with a section of 71 right out by the southbound ramp. So if you can picture that, that southbound ramp is now in the city limits of Ashland after we annexed across the interstate to take in the east side there with Grandpa's Cheese Barn and so on. So because of that, we need to consent to allow them to do some pavement repairs in that area as well as install new pavement markings. So it comes at no cost to us. We're just simply saying they can do these, make these improvements within the city of Ashland.
All right. Any comments, concerns?
No.
Hearing none, is there a motion to approve on the first reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye. I again will move to suspend the rules for 3 separate readings, 3 separate days.
Second.
Thank you.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Motion to approve the ordinance?
Move to approve.
Second.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Ordinance 26-25.
Next, we have an ordinance to vacate certain alleys situated in the city of Ashland, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Move for non-reading in
Steve,
full.
you have to wait for the hearing for that one.
Yep.
I'm sorry?
There's a hearing for that one.
2 minutes.
Oh, forgive me. Okay. So we'll move right down to ordinance D, which is an ordinance approving the community reinvestment area tax incentive application for Thiel's MIA LLC within the city of Ashland, Ohio.
Move for non-reading in full.
Second.
Thank you.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Well, in 1969, Robert Thiel, we just lost Robert last year. Robert Thiel started Thiel's, the local company that we all know of on the north side of town. I believe it's in Ward 4.
Yes.
Right? And in 1969, Robert Thiel started the company, and at that time, he sold carpets and drapes. And over the years, in the 80s, he began manufacturing kitchen cabinets. Can't get my words out. Later, he got into the kitchen cabinet remodel business in the 80s. And of course, now they are manufacturing kitchen cabinets under the leadership of his son, Eric. Well, the company, in the beginning, of course, only had 1 employee. Today, it has 62 employees. And in fact, that number jumped from 8 employees 4.5 years ago to today's 62. And the reason is because their cabinet manufacturing portion of the company is growing so significantly and so fast. In fact, so much so that Eric told me that last year in Inc. magazine, they were cited as one of the fastest growing manufacturers of cabinets in the country. And so with this in mind, they believe they can sustain this growth for the next several years. So they are asking us to consider assisting them in the expansion of their building over on, what street? What is it? 8th
Eighth
Street.
Street.
8th Street, 419 8th Street. And what they would like to do is build a 43,000 square foot manufacturing space in addition to what they already have at that location. This particular incentive that they are asking for is a community reinvestment area tax incentive. So this one does not require that they create new jobs. However, Eric assures me that he sees them creating additional jobs in the coming years. Now, this particular project involves, like I say, a 43,000 square foot expansion, a new building, and they expect it to cost around $6.2 million. They will maintain the 60 employees that they have today, and will likely see that number increase. And just in case you're interested, that their annual payroll is around $2.5 million. So we're glad to have them as one of our local employers. The incentive that we are offering them at this time is a community reinvestment area tax incentive, and it would be for 10 years at 75% reduction. And this is consistent with what we have done with other employers in our industrial park who continue to grow here in Ashland. And I would just remind you that we always say there are three components to our economic development strategy. The first, of course, is retention. We want to hold on to the companies that we have here. The second is expansion. We want to help them expand. And the third, of course, is attracting new businesses. Now, the good news is we're doing all three of those, but this particular project would probably fall under the category of retention and expansion. And they will be able to grow at their current footprint at 419 East 8th Street. So I would respectfully ask the council to consider approving this tax incentive for this growing area company.
And just for clarification, this tax incentive is only on the improvements.
Absolutely.
It's not on the entire build, the
Absolutely.
entire structure.
Absolutely. It'll be on their new building. So their current facility and office space would not be a part of this incentive.
This is one of those local companies that just has done a great job.
Absolutely.
Bob was a wonderful man, and Eric and Pam are just
Yes.
following in his footsteps, and it's just, I'm excited to see this,
Yes.
because they deserve it, and they've worked hard. So, glad to support it.
The building itself looks amazing
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lots of improvements.
Well, and to increase their employment level from 8
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
60
Yes.
or more in 4 years
Yeah.
says a lot.
Yes.
So
Is Eric here this evening?
No.
he is not.
No?
No.
Okay. I echo the sentiments of you both and think a lot of the Thiels and wish them continued success.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, if the council does pass this incentive tonight, they would hope to start breaking ground in April and have the project complete by the end of this year.
Great.
Great.
So, if there's no further discussion, I'll ask for a motion to approve on the first reading.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you.
Woodward,
aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
I'll move to suspend the rules for 3 separate readings, 3 separate days.
Second.
Thank you.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Motion to approve the ordinance.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Ordinance 27-25.
All right.
Hearing.
Yes. It is past 7:10. We'll move back to our hearing for an alley vacation, which would be Eastern Avenue. And assuming all goes well, we'll move back to our ordinance then. So with that, Mayor, would you like to summarize?
Absolutely, and we'll see here if we can get the map up on the screen. This one, it deals with Eastern Avenue. So we'll give them a moment to see if they can get it up there. That'll make it easier for everyone here in the audience. Okay, that's it. Very good. All right, here is Eastern Avenue. Here is Banning Avenue. The individual who owns, I believe it is this home, is interested in having this alley vacated because they are going through a sales transaction, and it is causing a variety of issues, I guess, with their title search and so on. And basically what you will see here is this alley, which is undeveloped, right now is serving as a driveway for both this residence and this residence. Now, you can see that this is the alley to nowhere. Maybe you can't see it real good in this picture, but nonetheless, once it gets here, it's all grass. And you can see at one point, the city actually already vacated that section of the alley. So basically, since it is never going to be improved as a thoroughfare, the property owner is asking that the council consider vacating it so that they can move forward with this piece of land being a shared driveway for both residents.
Are the property owners present this evening?
I don't see them, no.
Okay, very good.
Both were notified, and both know that it's going to be discussed or receive their official notice, so we haven't heard, we heard from the one that wants it, but the other one did not respond.
So, discussion, comments, concerns?
Pretty clean request.
Yeah. I have nothing. If anyone of the general public here has any comments on the matter, you're welcome to address council. And seeing none then, we'll close the hearing and move right back to our ordinance, which is item C on the agenda. This will be an ordinance to vacate certain alleys situated in the city of Ashland, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, and so for those in the audience that might be joining us for the first time, whenever we move forward or we start the process and have the hearing of vacating an alley or street, the first step is for the Board of Revision and Assessment to decide whether or not they feel that it should be recommended to council or whether we approve so that it can move to council. The Board of Revision and Assessment, according to our city charter, is made up of the mayor, the finance director, and the law director. The mayor shall serve as the chair, according to our charter. And so, at this time, if you two gentlemen are comfortable, we will call the meeting of the Board of Revision and Assessment to order. Are you willing to have a meeting? Okay, so then I've now called the meeting to order, and we will open discussion.
The only concern I have in this issue is that both parties are served by the same driveway. If this alley is vacated, I believe, correct me, Mr. Wolf, unless I'm wrong, but this alley is then divided to where each of the property owners get a portion of the vacated alley as their property. Is that correct?
Well, on the tax map record, it's divided, yes.
Okay.
Now, if it's necessary ingress and egress for both parties, that's still gonna have to remain.
And that was my understanding, that it
Right.
remains a shared driveway
Right.
for both properties.
And that's why I bring that issue out, is that even though they are vacating, or we will be hopefully vacating the alley, neither property owner gets 100% of
Correct.
of that alley.
Yes.
So,
That would only be the case if 100% of it all came from that one property or the other to begin with.
right.
But it doesn't serve a public purpose, it's not a thoroughfare.
No.
And I don't see any reason to object.
Well, then I would entertain
With
a
that-
motion.
With that, Mayor, I would move that the Board of Revision and Assessment recommend to this council that this ordinance, or this alley, be vacated.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? If not, then we'll take a roll call vote. Terry?
Mayor Miller,
Aye.
Larry Coxon,
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. So now the Board of Revision of Assessments has officially met. Thank you for joining us for our important meeting. And we now will make the recommendation to the council that you consider vacating this particular alley.
All right, council has its recommendation from the Board of Revision and Assessment. Is there a motion to approve on this first reading?
Move to approve.
Steve, you need non-reading in full.
Oh,
Forgive me.
okay.
Move for non-reading in full.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Is there a
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kyle.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye. Now, is there a motion to approve on the first read?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
I'll move to suspend the rules for 3 separate readings, 3 separate days.
Second.
Thank you.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Motion to approve the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Ordinance 28-25.
All right, very good. Next, we have an ordinance to vacate a certain street situated in the city of Ashland, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Move for non-reading in full.
Second.
Thank you.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
This will be the Jefferson Street vacation, of which we have heard from all parties on. And I understand we have parties here this evening that would like to further address the matter before we take a vote. And with that, Mr. Kearns?
Thank you, Mr. President. As you know, I represent 915 Second Avenue Realty Group. They are the present landowners. Also, we have here tonight is Michael Hooper, who's an attorney representing Carroll's Corporation, which actually owns the Burger King establishment on there. And we'll both be presenting our positions on this tonight. First off, I want to say that this, as council knows, this is a kind of a monumental type aspect to what city council is trying to approve to consider. We would urge that the city council either vote against it or table it for the following reasons. As you can see, there's a lot of resolutions have come before city council to vacate alleyways. In my lifetime, I can't count the number of alleyways which have been vacated by council. Vacating the street's a completely different animal. In my 58 years in Ashland, my entire life, I can remember just a handful. Zaner Court, which up Claremont has not really been used that much. It got closed down, wasn't really used. Masters Court off of Union Street really wasn't used. The houses there got burned down by the city, and it's not being used. Then you look at, I think, Madison, or actually, Madison up on Claremont was closed probably when I was about a baby. It was closed for the reason of a building project by the Ashland College at the time, and that was a purpose. But this one right here, what we're talking about, it really doesn't serve any purpose to close it down other than I would submit for aesthetics. There's been nothing presented to city council which has a safety issue. The university is not planning on building anything on top of it. It's more or less to be closed off, and they're still going to use it to conduct traffic in and out of their parking lots off of Broad Street. It's still going to be open on Claremont Avenue to conduct thoroughfares into Convo and so forth. So it's going to be closed off mainly just in the middle section of it. As I mentioned, I represent 915 Second Avenue Realty Group. They bought the property back in 2006 for $1.2 million. And they bought it for a reason, because it was a money-making offer, or proposition, because Burger King is there and they make money. It was built, Burger King was built there about 35 years ago, as we heard from the sheriff the last time we were here. It is a major part of the city, and I want to dispel any beliefs that it was built there because of the university. It wasn't built there because of the university any more than, say, Fred Oxley or Bill Oxley built his complex or his office up there on Claremont Avenue, or BB&C built theirs up there. It wasn't built there because of that. It was built because that area was available for building. Further down the street, like when I was in early high school, they built Wendy's down on Claremont. They built Friendly's down on Claremont, Taco Bell on Claremont, and all those were built because of the availability, closeness to downtown, and so forth, not built because of the location of the college. The amount of, I want to make sure that no one on city council believes or has a notion that we close off the access from Broad Street, that's going to not affect business because the college is still going to use it. That's not the case. A small amount of the business, grateful for the college business, but a small amount of the business actually comes from the college. There may be an uptick because of things that happen at the stadium and so forth. But I've been told, Mindy had stated, about 67% of their business comes through the drive-through. And what that is significant for is because, as Mindy stated last time, about 20% of the traffic comes up Broad Street, turns down Jefferson, and goes to the drive-through. There has been some say that perhaps traffic can just as well go further up the street, cut down Davis, and then come out Davis, and then drive down Claremont Avenue, and then drive into the drive-through. I would submit that that is not feasible for many different reasons. One, it's going to put a lot more stress onto Davis Street. The other thing is that few people are going to want to go make that drive to make all these different turns in order to get to the drive-through. What's going to happen is that if we would like to think that they have brand loyalty to Burger King, and that's why they're going to get fast food. Most of the people going to get their fast food are because they're hungry, they don't want to cook, they want something fast. And so they go up Broad Street, they turn down Davis, and what are they going to see? They're going to see Arby's. Arby's is right up there. Or they might just go further on up and go to McDonald's or whatnot. I would submit anyone here who has any background in marketing, you will know, you've probably been told this, and you know, when you go to the supermarket, the brands that pay the most are set at eye level. So you walk in, you'll see, the brands they want you to buy. The ones they don't pay as much to, the brands are at the bottom shelf. And so the ones at eye level, they sell. I say that for the purpose that when someone drives up Broad, down Davis, they're going to look and they're going to see Arby's and they're going to see this loop-de-loop they got to do to get to the drive-through at Burger King. It's going to cost business. And for that reason, I would definitely ask that City Council not approve it. We were asked last time about some numbers on this as far as, okay, how is this going to actually affect Burger King's traffic? My client looked into possibly doing a traffic study, and there are about two problems we saw with that. Number one, the timing of it at the time. Is it going to give a fair and accurate rendition of the amount of traffic that comes off? If we're talking like February, March, probably not. The other thing is expensive, about $10,000 he'd have to put forth. And as I mentioned earlier, the university has never put forth anything as far as any real need to have this road closed as far as safety or lack of traffic or anything like that. In this particular case, we don't really know how much it's going to impact the city. This is going to be a taking. It's going to be a taking not only from my client, from Burger King and so forth, but we don't really know at this point in time how is it going to impact the city, because how is it going to impact increased traffic on Davis? And it has been mentioned before, as far as traffic coming through from Broad Street, are they going to go down and they're going to highly impact Walnut Street? We don't know at this point in time. The university has never provided a traffic study on that to actually say this is going to be an issue. I also want to make sure that the council knows as far as the timing of this. As I said, I represent the landowner. We did not know at the time how this would affect the business. My client, from the outset, he said, I don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize my lease. I don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize my client or my tenants. And he was very specific to make sure that the Carrolls were involved. We both had, over a period of time, contact with the Carrolls as far as trying to figure out, do they have any problems with having it closed down? Unfortunately, our contact person at the time had not gotten back with us very much. And in fact, during a dead time, we found out that he retired and unfortunately didn't tell us. After we found out that there was another person involved, Tom Brogan, he was more proactive. He did tell us, hey, I spoke to Mindy Sheriff, the manager has been there for 31 years, and she has expressed to us that we're going to take a big hit if we don't have any more access from Broad Street because of the reasons I've already stated. And because of that, I was told at that time, which was not, too terribly long ago, as to why there was an issue with this and why we would definitely oppose at this point in time a closing of Jefferson Street because of the direct access from Broad Street. So I also want to point out, and one thing I also want to mention, that did have a chance to look at the letter written by your city law director. I will say that those issues raised were already on our minds. What he put forth was very succinct and more or less just stated to city council what we were already thinking. My client, even before this, was asking, what can we do to stop this? Because we are going to take a hit. Because as I mentioned before, my client paid $1.2 million for that property. He has a lease that's going to be coming up for redo here probably like next June. When that happens, Burger King may say, we don't want to be there anymore, we're taking a hit. If that happens, he's going to have a huge loss. If he wants to sell the property, he's going to take a loss. Because we have to figure, why was that building built where it was? City council, you know where that building is in relation to the property owned by my client. It wasn't built in the center, it was built there in the corner. The reason for that was the access from Broad Street. It was very well thought out at the time. So the way it's set out right now, there will be a detriment to my client, there will be a diminution of value. Like I said, my client from the outset was saying, can we get an injunction? What's going to happen? And this, in a sense, is a taking. And because of this, my client will be injured in probably at least six figures, if not seven figures. He's going to be taking a hurt on this. So for that reason, we are definitely asking that you not approve or at least table the issue there of the taking. One more thing is that even the city ordinance on this regarding the closure of a street says that the right-of-way and easement therein of any lot owner shall not be impaired hereby. Any lot owner includes my client. And under the city's own ordinance, the vacating of that street will, the right-of-way or easement created by this taking will definitely impair my client's right, use, and enjoyment of that property. And for that reason, we respectfully ask that you deny the ordinance at this point in time. If nothing else, table it, but we'd ask you deny it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kearns. Would anyone else like to address council on this matter? Oh. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is Mike Hooper, Hooper, and I am counsel for Carol's LLC, which is the Burger King franchisee that operates on this particular facility. I've not been to Ashland in many, many years. Let me start by saying it's lovely. The university is lovely. What they've done, the athletic complex, it's wonderful. I appreciate that. But what I don't appreciate is a 2022 application that now, 3 years later, all of a sudden it's been resurrected. My client has found no notice of the 2022 action and received no written notice of the action with City Council for the February 19th, 2025 meeting. Rather, we received a phone call the night before where my client was totally unable to attend, that this 2022 action was being resurrected. So from that standpoint alone, we request that this be tabled or rejected. But let me start from the beginning. The university is the applicant, not the city, as I understand, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, this is a taking with no public purpose, but rather only a private benefit. Jefferson Street is a vanity project for the university, and I understand why. Above it and below it, east and west, really, really nice. Really, really nice. The middle, it's getting there, where Jefferson Street is. There's a nice sidewalk, but there's an icky parking lot on the one side above the Burger King. There's a paved parking lot on the other side. Not so bad. But the middle, not so great. But my point to this is, It's beautification. There's no valid safety issue, and therefore, this is not for the public good. It's for the university good, and that is not the standard. As I understand it, we're only aware of one known pedestrian accident in the 35 years that we've been in operation on Jefferson Street. Have there been traffic accidents at Claremont? Maybe. Yes, on Claremont for sure. But the interesting thing, if safety is the issue, is there signage along that entire block between Broad and Claremont? Slow, be careful, safety, pedestrian crossing. No. Are there speed bumps to ensure safety? The things that municipalities and private owners do to promote and slow down fast driving and promote safety. None of that's done. Are there crosswalks in the middle so the people can cross the street from one aspect of the parking lot to the other? Nothing. Is that proposed in any of this? No. Has it been done for the 35 years that my client's been involved? No. So where's the safety concern? So the actual detrimental impact is for a 35-year business of this community, a tax-paying business, my client. This is going to force approximately 20% of our customers who now access Burger King from Broad onto Jefferson to use Davis Street. And when I came in, I drove up Jefferson, and I went to Broad, and I turned left down to Davis, just say, okay, for grins and giggles, what's it going to be like? I sat at that intersection trying to get onto Claremont for 4 minutes. Constant stream of cars, bunch of students, the cross-country team. I really don't think the average Joe who's been coming through the Burger King drive-thru to get a cup of coffee and a croissant in the morning is going to want to do that. But what you're going to have is increased traffic on this Davis Street instead of Jefferson Avenue. And then to get in, you've got to make 2 left turns crossing Claremont. That ain't easy, guys. That's not easy at all. And again, I'm going to try not to repeat, but the big number here is 67% of our business comes through the drive-thru. And you can't access the drive-thru from Davis Street. The only way you can get there is the 2 left turns if this action happens. That's going to have an impact on business. That's going to scare away customers. That's going to cause a decline in the value of our lease. It's going to cause a decline in the revenue. So, increased congestion on Davis Street, yes, that's obvious. But more importantly, I'm seeing an increased risk of accidents on Claremont. Assuming hypothetically that all our customers love Burger King, so they're going to keep coming. We're going to have a whole lot more cars coming onto Claremont at peak hours. Breakfast time, lunchtime, dinner time. When's the most traffic on Claremont? Breakfast time, lunchtime, dinner time. So, Burger King customers and the public of Ashland deserve and rely on safe access to this store. Burger King relied on access to all 4 of these streets 35 years ago when it built this building. The planned upgrades. Burger King's upgrade every once in a while. Beautification projects. I tell you, we have put them on hold. We don't know if we're going to improve this. If this goes through, there's a good chance that we may not. Whether we renew or not is an economic decision that we'll make coming up. But between now and then, we're going to have some serious thinking about that because it is a concern. It's a viable concern. So the other thing, the picture's not up, but let me give you Hooper's Perfect World. Okay? In Hooper's Perfect World, all right, we've got Jefferson Street right here. Burger King's here. I'm sorry, Burger King's right here. The university has ample room on its side. Really what they're talking about is increasing the sidewalk so they've got really nice flow going from the stadium, the two fields, the athletic complex, down. They've got a really nice sidewalk up there by the fields. They've got a really nice sidewalk at the bottom. They could very easily, using their own property, put that same walkway in without impacting Jefferson Street. The other thing that's interesting, I've been doing land use for a long, long time, back when my hair was brown and I was probably a whole lot skinnier. But this is the first situation where the applicant hasn't had to do a traffic study to shut a major street. Alleys, okay, that's easy. But streets, that's a whole different animal. We're talking changes in traffic flow. There's no proposals for signals. There's nothing as far as I understand. They didn't do a traffic study. Why is the burden for a $10,000 expense put on the landowner? That should be a predicate before an applicant wants to close a major street or to close any street. That hasn't happened. So we've got no traffic study, no proof of anything from the university other than a really nice beautification project. So clearly there's going to be an increased traffic on Claremont. Clearly there's going to be an increased traffic risk of accidents turning off of Davis onto Claremont. But more importantly, Jefferson Street is a dedicated public road that serves an ongoing public purpose. It was done for a reason. And that reason was primarily to access the two main roads, Broad Street and Claremont. That isn't going to happen. My understanding is that that hearing in February, a representative from the police or a police officer was opposed to this project for those very reasons, safety. If safety is the university's predicate, why is police opposed? So, at a minimum, we ask that this be tabled for at least 2 months to allow us, in conjunction with the owner of the property, to do a traffic study. We don't want to. We don't want to spend $10,000. We think the university should have to do that. But if that's our only viable option from this 2022 thing that should be considered stale, they should have to reapply after a certain period of time. But for some reason, it was resurrected, and here we are. So we also oppose any talk of a partial vacation of Jefferson Street and limiting it to a right turn only. That again, is going to have a detrimental impact on our business. We also request that once the traffic study's been done, because of the age from 2022 of this, and that there be a properly noticed, with notice to the actual affected tenant, of a public hearing for additional public comment. So to grant a vacation of Jefferson Street at this point, as has been said, it's our position that it's an improper taking without a public purpose. Clearly detrimental to the owner. Clearly detrimental to a 35-year-old tax-paying, or 35-year tax-paying citizen in Burger King and Carroll's Corporation. Detrimental to the public who rely on Jefferson Street for access. Detrimental to the public who aren't going to have access anymore from Broad to Jefferson. Detrimental to the public because of the increased traffic on Davis and the accident risk based on the turns to get into Claremont. And as was specified, Section 105 of the ordinances regarding vacation was accurately quoted. So even if vacated, the right-of-way and easement, i.e. Jefferson Street to Broad and to Claremont, shall not be impaired. Based on what I've heard, the applicant wants to impair. So, from our perspective, vacation is not a safety issue. This is just the private beautification project, which I love it, it's a wonderful thing, but they should be negotiating with us to try to come up with something, not going through a municipality. So, from our perspective, we consider it a wrongful taking. We certainly would seek appropriate damages, potentially injunctive relief if need be, which I think can be avoided. By tabling this and at least giving us an opportunity for at least 2 months to do a traffic study, to meet face-to-face with the university to try to work this out, not to railroad something through without evidence by the university other than this is a great thing, guys. But it's not. It's really affecting a lot of people and certainly affecting the owner and the tenant. So I respectfully request that the matter be tabled to allow us to do that. And if that is not the will of this august body, I request that it be voted down. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Peavy. Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm John Peady, the president of Ashland University. I've followed two fine attorneys. I'm not an attorney. I'm not presuming to be one. I think I'll say two things, some things I intended to say, and some quotes I wrote down. I appreciate the perspective of an out-of-state owner and an out-of-town renter. I can say, to put the landowner at ease, we have had, in the last 12 months, an offer that's so attractive to bring in something that I'll say is between fast food and of that nature, that we would be willing to take down a building and still make a profit. So if that is a question of whether $1.2 million can be recouped for that space, believe me, that should not be a worry. As I understand it, in the 2 years we've been reaching out with Burger King's owners, that has not been fruitful, and we have no expectation that in 2 months they will do what they did not do in 2 years. The 20% that's been quoted is undocumented, and I think when attorneys say after 2 years they have no documentation whatsoever how many come from abroad, that I don't think that bit of data should matter. But contrary to what was just said, I actually do have information, and we do have a public purpose. Those of us who actually live in this community know that we have only one place to gather for, let's see, in the last year, I was there for the United Way, I was there for our community foundation, mental health awareness, and of course we all convene in that paid parking lot, and then unfortunately we have to go across to the unpaid parking lot. I know what it's going to cost me to pay that. We've already spent $600,000 fixing up the upper convo. So we have projections of hypothetical expenditures, and then we have the receipts. I think it's roughly about $605,000. We know that the parking lot, the beautification, the safety measures, the aesthetic lighting. We know, I won't name the true number because if this is public television, I would start my bid there if I were a contractor. Let us just say that it's over $500,000. So you're talking about Ashland University in a time when higher ed is pulling back from communities. And instead we're saying, following Matthew 6:21, that where our treasure is shall be our heart, and you are our heart. So we are putting money in a tough year, not for ourselves. I won't have a single student who chooses this university because that lot is paved. However, I will have happy people that rent it. How many, it was said, we don't have numbers. Well, of course we do. 579 non-AU organizations rented in this fiscal year our space. We have head counts given to us for events, catering, charges against that. We estimate, or have a precise number, of 67,849 people. That doesn't include a single athletic event. Our high school, as you know, comes to the NIS, which is our enclosed track. They park at the NIS, then Upper Convo, and then that lot. Burger King has an extraordinary business because of us. They are so successful because of us that they will not advertise with us. Wendy's does. So that is telling to me that if they say that they happen to be near the university by happen chance when reality, it is such a prime space that others put their name on our scoreboard. Others reach out to us for partnerships and things of this nature. And I'm glad of their prosperity. I'm a capitalist. So if I take the 67,000 that come to these events and I add tens and tens and tens of thousands for our remarkable girls basketball team, our men's team, all our sports, I'm talking about more than 100,000 people. So tens of thousands of people do cross this intersection. And we are saying to Burger King, you have something that no one else has. You have 5 points of entry and egress, and guess what? If the council votes the way we asked to, you will still have 5. I think we had this schematic, and maybe we might pull that up, so they don't lose a single point of entrance. What they have instead is us paving this, beautifying their area. It was said to be a vanity project. Now, I'll stumble in my words. I'm in the business, as are my colleagues, the 1,000 and something people I employ and work with and care about in this community. We are not, sir, engaged in a vanity project. That is wrong. To serve our neighbors is not an act of vanity. To tell our students that they will get scholarships. When we talked about real money, one thing we know, the construction has gone up 5 to 8% a year. If you have a $500,000 project, we're out $50,000. That's $50,000 in scholarships I didn't give to high schoolers here. So I do ask for the vote. A delay after 2 years of delay is not well served. I'll come back to that idea of no public purpose and no public service. I don't hear that from somebody who's a member of our community. I think they understand that us being able to convene together in person is the definition of a public good and a public service. Now, I'm wonderfully happy here, my wife and I in the Historic District. You can hear I'm a bit of a Southerner. We're always one step away from a speech, so I'm going to censor myself and allow others that might speak. But in terms of business of 35 years, and again, we are glad. I do love their chicken sandwich. But if 35 years is the mark of an economic investment, we arrived in 1878. Thank you.
Thank you, President Petey. Is there anyone else who would like to address council on the matter? Good evening, Mr. Ward.
Good evening, guys. Yeah, I'm Rob Ward, and I'm coming to you on a number of areas. One is a person that lives in our community. I'm an alumnus of Ashland University, and I'm also on the Board of Trustees at Ashland University. Also, about 20 years ago, to Joe Kearns' point, is another property that, or street that was vacated was Grant Street. And I happened to be the real estate broker that knocked on about 50 or 60 homes, door to door. And a lot of those people weren't real excited about selling, but they also understood how important it is for Ashland University to thrive in our community. We bought all those houses on College Boulevard, College Avenue, Samaritan Avenue, built School of Education, Dock School of Business, and other, beautified that campus, came to council and the mayor at that time, which was a difficult decision at that time as well, and asked for you to vacate Grant Street. And we also rezoned part of those areas because they weren't zoned properly. So we even went through a zoning change and had to notify all the neighbors and around and do public hearings and do everything we need to do. I can't tell you the difference that made for Ashland University. My wife and I were walking through the institution last Friday when it was so nice, and which we often do. And I've often said to my wife, what would Ashland be if we didn't have Ashland University? And I would not want to be mayor or on city council if those buildings came up vacant. And I can tell you there's 2 schools right now in the state of Ohio that are private schools that are shutting their doors. So higher ed, and me sitting on the board, I can tell you guys it's a challenging industry. And how many communities would love to have an Ashland University in their town? So I'm here to ask you guys to make the hard choice, do what's best for our community. The jobs that Ashland University create in this community, not only from the employment, but just with insurance companies, real estate brokers, contractors, restaurants. You go down to South Street after a game and it's just packed. Then this center, where we built over there, the impact that whole corridor has made and the money that has been sent over there, I would agree. I think some of this is safety, but to me, it's the continuation of a beautification project that shouldn't stop. When people come to Ashland University, kids, to decide where they want to go, and you parents done it as well, you look at the campus and you really look at that and say, is it well taken care of? Is it safe? What's it going to be like for my kids? And, you know, they've talked about 2025 cliff for how many years, which means there's a big percent of high school students that aren't going to be, the numbers are way down, baby boomers or what have you. And it's only going to get more and more competitive for higher education, fighting over less students. So just a couple of things too, and I'm a real estate broker, right? I'm not a good attorney, and I'm not a president of a university, but I will say a couple things. I also drove by the Burger King today too. Drive-through. There's no sign as a drive-through on Jefferson. And the reason for that is truly, because I've done it, if you come off Broad, you go onto Jefferson, and you turn right to go in there. If there's 2 cars in there, you're blocking the whole parking lot, someone coming in from Claremont to try to get around. So if you come in that way, you do have to do that loop to get in. The best way is to come off Claremont Avenue, right, and to come into the drive-through. And we're not taking those options away. You know, you still have the same amount of accesses. So, you know, I'm here to just ask you guys to do the right thing. And it's a tough decision, I get it. But that's all the comments that I would have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Anyone else? Good evening.
Hi there. I know I spoke a little bit last one. To hear that we wouldn't be here because of, you know, AU is wrong. We don't get as much business as you would think from the students. We get more during like the football games, any of the big events. Then yeah, we get a lot of the people. We get mostly of them using the parking lot to park and go to class, using our parking lot to do whatever. You know, it's, the thing that worries me is if you close that little section of the road, because it's not even half the road, you're gonna have backed up traffic on Claremont, because when the big events, they're coming out 2 parking lots. So how many accidents are we gonna have there on Jefferson? Then you're gonna have to wait to turn left or right, and you gotta wait for the students that are walking across the street if they use, you know, the push button, the walkway. We have that bridge that they could always use, that I think needs to be a little vamped a little bit better so they can get to the bridge on the outside. But it's, I think, more safety and my business. I mean, I say 20% loss, yeah, that's my guessing. But when you're there most of the time, you can see the traffic come off of Jefferson, or off of Broad onto Jefferson. So I can only go by what I see and what I can feel, you know. 31 years, you can kind of tell where your traffic flow is. And without having that little bit of traffic that comes up Broad, people take it because it's quicker. Because who in the middle of lunch, you know, wants to come up Claremont and try to come into Burger King if that's the only entrance to the drive-thru? And he did make the point that, you know, if you take Broad onto Jefferson into our drive-thru and you have a couple cars there, yeah, you're gonna wait a second. But most people let you go and they take turns just like McDonald's with the 2-lane drive-thru. You know, you got one coming in this way, one coming in this way. You know who goes. Most people go ahead and let you go through, they take their turns. But if we don't have that option, you're gonna have more traffic going down Claremont and blocking the road. So, I mean, It's just my opinion on everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Zachary Gassler, Fourth Ward, also a candidate running for Fourth Ward election this year. Quoting a Bible verse that the gentleman did earlier, there's also Genesis 49:17. If you actually look at what the actual AU has done, they've even mentioned other properties and everything else like that they took down. What is that for? Most of it was for parking lots. Do you want to see more parking lots, or would you rather see more homes for actually Ashlanders to actually be able to stay here? If you can look at the comments and everything else like that, all within this live feed, there's a lot of people on here says the school's going to win regardless because everybody gets favoritized. I don't think it will. I think the city council will be able to see that the street itself does have a lot of public use. There is public utilities on it. There's a car show that happens over there at Carroll's. One of the very few that actually Ashland has. And I'm sorry to say it, if I have a car, I actually have quite a few of them, Thunderbirds, and I love my cars. They're not worth a whole lot, but you got other cars that come to the car shows there. Someone could even go all the way up to $500,000 or more. And do you think I want to take one of those cars right down Claremont, especially when, that's a 25-mile-an-hour zone, and how many people do 50? If they're more worried about public safety and everything else like that, why is it that they can't build a bridge and make the steps to go up to the bridge from the outside? Instead of putting a giant walk path through there, which they did, that's a great idea. It's been proven to be really well. But a lot of the students, most of them take their time dilly-daggly around, just walking right by. Some of them don't even pay attention. They just hit that button, walk right out. It's just like an old saying my grandpa says, play stupid games and stupid prizes. The public should not have to suffer for more of Ashland University trying to take over more land on there, because a lot of the public that I've talked to, you shut down the street, you're going to start impacting there. Carroll's is going to be impacted. What's going to stop AU jumping in to try to take over that property now? AU is taking over a lot of properties. They took over one of my grandma and grandpa's houses right over there on College Boulevard, tore it down. And right there where it's standing at, there's an old tree. I hate seeing that. A lot of Ashlanders, we can't even afford the AU college. And if you're a freshman in college, 9 times out of 10, you can't have a car. You got to stay there in a dorm room. What freshman's going to be able to, even if they can't afford all that kind of stuff, is going to be able to go to Burger King to go and get a burger, especially with skyrocketed prices? Most of the people that use the Burger King that I've seen, and I love going there, is the older people that used to go to Kelly's. We go over there, have our coffee, chit-chat, the old school, small town feel. We're very limited anymore in Ashland on restaurants and stuff like that that are privately owned by Ashlanders. There's too many chains. And I believe that the city council needs to start looking more into the actual public to actually bring in more of actual private businesses and not just Main Street. Main Street looks gorgeous, wonderful. Parade, everything else like that, awesome. But we also got to think of the older community. Or are we actually going to be able to actually just huddle? Talk about how Ashland is. Talk about kids, grandkids. My daughter over there, she made him one of the best friends to a man over there at Burger King. And he had to bury his kids and his grandkids. That little girl right there calls him his grandpa now. That's a small town. And when it comes to AU, you guys got more areas outside the city. Not counting the Black Fork down there. You got places everywhere. If you guys are looking to expand more, why don't do it more on the outskirts of town where the city annexed? Instead of being downtown, all those kids and stuff like that running around all those streets. Look at King Street. You guys were trying to vacate that before. And then there was King Street Apartments. I remember those. That was an income-based apartments. One of the very few places that Ashley has that are income-based. We don't have a metropolitan here. We don't have none of that stuff here. The city is more turning into a college. It's turning more into a metropolitan. You can't meet the criteria, kind of getting pushed out. That's what a lot of the public's feeling. And I went down, talked to a lot of the public. And that's what I'm running to try to actually help fix. I personally believe none of these streets should be vacated. Especially as Jefferson may not seem like much, but when you got older people that are going in and out of Burger King for their coffee, do you want some older person to turn down on Claremont? Or would you rather them turn down Broad Street? If you have a fire or a medical emergency, someone having a heart attack, I got a bad ticker, and I'm over there and I'm playing those games, I want direct access for that squad that come down to me. Jefferson's that. Instead of them weaving wobbling around to actually try to get through there to try to play that, no, I want a direct shot. At least they'll actually be there within a couple minutes and maybe even have an AED to actually shock me back to life. If they're more worried about anything like that, with safety, other matters can be done. Beautification, repave it, put some little cornerstones out there, make it public. Have the community get together to actually make something. It's easy. Jefferson Street is not a bad looking street. If you drove down it, it's wonderful. Should it be a right turn early or a right turn only? I would agree with that. Because a tiny little street going across 4 lanes, yeah, that's kind of common sense. So I believe, and a lot of the public believes, that I've spoke to 4th Ward, 3rd Ward, and 1st Ward. We should keep that street, make it a right turn only. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone at all? All right. Terry, did we move for non-reading? Okay. Is there any reason why council may not want to pursue a vote this evening on this ordinance? Hearing none, then we'll move forward. But before we do, I've prepared a statement as president. I'd like to share with you. This ordinance to close half of Jefferson leaves much to consider. We have a residential property owner who has agreed to the closure. We have the potential of a negative impact to Burger King and their drive-through traffic. And then we have the university's campus environment to consider. From personal experience in the quick service food industry for many years, I do not feel personally that Burger King will be negatively impacted. You can count every single car through the drive-through that they run, but you can't count where they came from. You can drop one in by helicopter, but you can't, and they go through the drive-through, but you can't tell where it came from. So a traffic study, I don't think would produce much in the way of information for this council. There's just no mechanism available to accurately count the cars through that drive-through and where they came from, either Claremont or Broad. The university has made the statement that this is a safety issue, but couldn't provide any documentation to that effect, which I can fully understand. But what I do think is that this is a quality of life issue for Ashland. The university sits in the middle of our city geographically. It is one of the largest employers in our city, providing a large income tax stream that, again, if you talk about quality of life, would be a loss to our city. there is finally the council's obligation to reduce redundancy within our city. That's why we have vacations of alleys. And we don't have to maintain those anymore once they're vacated. This would be the same way. The university has agreed to take over all the maintenance for Jefferson Street. And then lastly, there is a cultural aspect to the university that can't be measured. The university is there for all of us citizens, from the lowest of income to the highest of income. We can enjoy the events, the entertainment, the arts that the university provides that you can't find in a city that does not have a university. And like I said, that cannot be measured. It will also make that area more pedestrian friendly. And a city that is and has become more pedestrian friendly is desirable in that it's a trend to attract and keep the younger generation here rather than move to some place that is more pedestrian friendly. And it's for those reasons that I personally would be in favor of accepting this street closure. The Board of Revision has given an assessment, has given a recommendation to approve this closure. And therefore, I think we should move on at this point with the ordinance. That being said, we've moved for non-reading in full and had a second. We've taken a roll call vote. Is there a motion to approve on the first reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mayor Miller,
Lawson.
did you have anything to add?
I do not.
All right.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
I will move to suspend the rules for 3 separate readings, 3 separate days.
Second.
Thank you.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Motion to approve the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Ordinance 29-25.
I'll ask that anyone in the audience refrain from comment in order to maintain order at our meeting this evening. Thank you. Moving down through the agenda, we have a resolution declaring council's intention to vacate a certain alley located in the city of Ashland, Ohio. This will be Ronald and Matthews Avenues.
Move for non-reading in full.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Okay, we'll see if we can get this one up on the screen here. Let me take a look and familiarize myself with it. This is Moto Mart. This is East Main Street. This is Moto Mart. Previously, these were Tim Stoops properties where Remax was located. And this is the location of the undeveloped alleyway. And this is what we're proposing tonight that the council consider vacating. Of course, all these property owners will receive notice of a public hearing if you should decide to set one. And then at that time, anyone who has concerns or questions can come forward and share them with you that night. But you can see clearly this one isn't even a driveway. This is all grass through here, and it runs behind these properties, which have multiple entrances and access points. And so we don't expect a lot of fanfare with this particular request.
Is that the veterinarian behind them? Behind
I'm not sure if that business is a veterinarian or not. I don't believe it is. I think it's a home.
On down from there, to the right, Matt,
This is the Moto Mart.
behind the blue line. There,
Yeah, that is the.
Is it a
That is the vet-
veterinarian? Okay,
Yes.
very good.
all right.
What used to be. Did it sell?
Yeah, I think
The
the
other way?
veterinarian is, yes,
Oh, okay,
We're a block off.
that's what I thought.
all right. right.
I believe this is a house.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Oh, we're on the others.
so basically tonight, we're just bringing it to your attention and ask you to consider the possible vacation of this alleyway. And of course, as you know, the next step is to set a public hearing if you're willing.
All right. We have a proposed date of May 6th. If that is with council's approval, we can take a vote accordingly unless there's further discussion. Nope. Hearing none. Oh, I'm sorry. So is there a motion to approve on the first reading this resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
I'll move to suspend the rules for 3 separate readings, 3 separate days.
Second.
Thank you.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Aye.
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 We have no old business this evening, but we do have some new business. We have the first item being an advertising permit for Randall Miller, Howard Hanna Real Estate Services, downtown Ashland. Is Randall here?
He is not here, but I did speak with him before the meeting.
Okay.
And basically, what he is requesting, he and his associates at Howard Hanna, is for your authorization to allow them to basically canvass neighborhoods and meet with potential clients at their homes. In rare instances, they may leave a flyer, but if they do, it will be in a plastic bag. They're already aware of that. And so they have followed the proper procedures, so.
All right. Comments? Discussion? All right. Hearing none is, do we need a roll call vote, Terry? All right. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve this
move
request
to
for an
approve this.
advertising permit?
I move to approve this advertising permit.
Second?
Second.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. You know, along the lines of advertising permits, we, for some reason, where I live, we get almost a daily visitor with some form of advertising at our door. And that is fine, as long as you're not leaving materials. If you're leaving materials, you must apply for a permit. And I just want to make that as a public announcement. If you would adhere to that, we'd appreciate it very much. Second request we have is request for consideration of a non-conforming use permit per CO 1181.10 at Troy Market, 1300 Troy Road. This will be parcel number P 43-010-0-0152-00 and parcel number P 43-010-0-15300 and parcel number 43-010-0-0154-00. So with that, do you have a summary?
I do.
All right.
And we actually, I believe, have the individual here who is pursuing this in the audience, so we'll give him the chance to talk. But what I want to point out to everyone is this particular item on the agenda has already come through the City Planning Commission and is now being proposed to you for final consideration. This involves what most of our Ashland residents would recognize as the Troy Avenue Market. Is that what it's called? It doesn't sound right. Troy Road. Couldn't think, it didn't sound right when I said that. Troy Road Market. And basically, what I understand is, in 1965 is when the city enacted its zoning code. And at that time, that entire area was zoned residential. The market already existed there on the corner because that used to be 511. So I guess it still is 511 when you head north. But that market was already there at that location when zoning was enacted, and that became a residential area. Therefore, now that use does not conform with the residential zoning regulations, now that Ish, in this case, wants to tear down the Troy Road Market and rebuild it in a more modern way there. In order for him to do so, he has to have a non-conforming use permit. And so that is why this is coming to you. And of course, the first step will be for you to set a hearing if you want to further consider it. But with Ish here tonight, Ish, is there something you might want to say? Anything in particular? If you'd like, if you could come to the microphone and introduce yourself.
My name is Ishwar Upadhyay. Shore Road is right now is dragging down right now. Like we like to get a new one, new refresh the look outside, inside, and even the neighborhood will appreciate if we do upgrade the new looking ones, and good for the community too. You know, I mean that's all I can say.
And my understanding is it would continue to be a convenience store,
Yes, continue
only
with the
expanded.
Yes.
And the parking would be better delineated
Yes.
than what it currently is.
Better coming in and out would be nicer than right now.
So for example, when you take a look at the Troy Road Market right now, there are no curbs. You can pull in from every direction, you can come out from every direction. His new configuration would relocate the building, expand it, but also now install an egress and access points that are more defined, so that you couldn't just pull in at every angle into his parking lot.
I just want to say, Ish, we're familiar with you. We appreciate your investment in our community and your confidence in your investing in Ashland. So we appreciate you being here. We know you could set up shop anywhere, but you've chosen Ashland, and we appreciate it very
Yes,
much.
yes. I've been here 20 years in town, so I will
Yeah.
do better in
Very good.
future.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Ish, do you mind if we have access to it, do you mind if we put up what your new
Sure.
design would be? Jason, do you have that possibly? And you may not. That, I believe, is the next item. There's one before it. And do you actually have the aerial of what the new design would look like? You may not have included it. Okay. Well, basically, I'll just go ahead and point out right here. Here's Troy Road. We'll go back. That's okay, Jason, if you can't find it. West 13th Street, right here's where the current building's located. You correct me if I'm wrong, but more or less, this building would come down. Now we would place it somewhere probably back here, and now there'd be an access points clearly defined on each side, West 13th and Troy. Is that correct? All right. And of course, the council members do have that in your packet, right? So you've seen the design? Okay.
So the proposed site is not where the map shows the proposed site. That big, large block where it says proposed site,
It's got an arrow.
it's got an
Yes.
arrow, yeah, and the
Yes.
public maybe cannot see that.
Yes. So it will be on in this entire area.
Steve, I'd like to ask the question.
Absolutely.
Ish, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, so there are pumps out front, is that correct?
Yes.
Are those active pumps?
Yes.
Will those be moved?
They will be removed, yes.
Okay, that's.
Tanks
that's
and
all.
everything will be removed.
Yes, I thought for sure you could get gasoline there as well, so it's not just a convenience store, you can get
No,
gasoline
he
as
said
well.
removed.
We-
Oh, removed,
we
oh,
will remove out when we do.
okay, no more gasoline, all right. Perfect, thank you.
Doesn't pay
Thank you.
anyone.
Anyone else?
And the rezoning is just specifically for those parcels.
So
not-
that's what you would be issuing a non-conforming use permit
Okay.
so that he can rebuild in that location, because once he removes the structure, he's not allowed to build the same thing unless you grant him permission.
Okay,
The plans look very good, Ish.
yes.
Appreciate that.
It will look very nice in that area as well,
Yes, it will.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Ish.
So we have a request for consideration of a non-conforming use permit accordingly. With that, Terry, do you want to take a vote, or do we need a motion?
I move for approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second,
Terry's got something.
oh,
I believe we have to set a hearing.
Oh, do
right,
we? Okay.
For a non-conforming use
All right.
permit.
And we can do that on May 6th as well. And Mr. Miller's made a motion for that.
Second.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
aye.
All right. Moving on, then we have finally a recommendation for proposed rezoning, RA Residential District and RL Residential District to SU Special Use District 340 for Samaritan Avenue. This is for the Shar College of Education.
Okay, this is basically just cleaning up the map. This has to deal with zoning as well, and this one you did have, Jason. All right, so here we are. This is Samaritan Avenue. Samaritan Avenue. And here is College Boulevard. And for those that are familiar with College Boulevard, right here sets the Shar College of Education. Here's the adjacent parking lot that is between the Shar College of Education and the Arts and Humanities Building, or Hugo Young Theater. And basically, all of the college campus is zoned special use. This particular portion, however, even though it's occupied by the university currently, was never changed to special use. And so that is the request that's before us, is just to clean up the map and make that special use. Clearly, it already is. So the first step is to have a public hearing
All right,
to discuss it.
is there a motion?
So moved. Can we do that on May 6th as well?
We can.
I moved that we do a hearing for the proposed zoning change on May 6th.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Next, we have Finance Director's report. Larry?
We continue to work through the 2024 audit process. At this point, that will continue for about another month before that is completed. We do not anticipate any issues with that, but it is an ongoing process. As we work through that, tax season is coming. So I wish to remind everyone that April 15th is the deadline to file your local income tax as well as your federal and state income taxes.
Very good.
That's my report.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have council comments. Mr. Lawson, would you like to go first?
Oh, well, certainly. I know it's been late, and I know that a lot of people may have questions. I can safely say, and I don't want to speak for the rest of the council here, but I know we did not take that decision lightly on Jefferson. We wanted to gather as much information as we could. We wanted to hear from all facts and all the people that we could. And we each have probably our own reasons for why we voted the way we did, but please know that it wasn't done in a flippant nature. We did our best to take the city's interest in hand and to consider all the factors that were involved. I personally talked to police, fire, and sheriff, none of whom said they were opposed to this. So I don't know where that comment came that the police department was in opposition to closing it. All of them said they supported the idea of closing it. So it wasn't necessarily a matter of public safety for them. And so just understand, we didn't do this lightly. We've been thinking about it, talking about it, praying about it for a long, long time.
Thank you. Mrs. Woodruff?
Well, I couldn't said it any better, so thank you for that. On a little lighter note, let's talk about St. Patty's Day. I just want to thank the mayor for moving St. Patty's Day parade from Saturday to Monday, so that it was a little colder, but it wasn't raining. And
Beautiful.
yes, it was a beautiful day. I don't know how many people came out. Do we know?
We don't know the official count, but I think
There
we
had to
had
be
several
thousands.
thousand.
Yes,
Million.
there had to
Yeah,
be.
millions.
Millions. There was millions that came out, so you should have seen
Tens of
it.
thousands.
So,
Tens of thousands.
I went to O'Brien's afterwards to support them. It was packed. I didn't end up getting out of there till almost 10 trying to eat a pizza, but they were full of patrons, and so I appreciate our city and all the festivities that come with it. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
organizing that parade.
Well, and you know what I will tell you is a lot of our merchants, in particular the bar owners and the restaurant owners, have claimed that that is the biggest day of their year. May not be for all of them, but most of them say they set a record that day each year. and several of them did this year as well. And even though we canceled our activities that were intended for Saturday and moved them to St. Patrick's Day, on Saturday, there was still a crowd in all of the restaurants all throughout the day. So no one went home disappointed when it comes to our area businesses.
I met one gentleman that was completely dressed in attire, and I said, "I seen you Saturday at the crosswalk," and he said, "I was glad to be able to do it twice."
That's
So-
right. That's right. Good.
Was there a DORA in place for that? or
There was
that-
not on March 17th.
Okay.
Now, on Saturday, there was. Yes.
Mr. Miller?
I thought there was a Dora.
Not on March 17th.
Monday. Oh,
But
okay.
on Saturday.
Whoops.
The 15th.
There goes my comment.
He was drinking.
Luckily, we didn't
There was
see
no
you with a
issues,
cup
that's why.
downtown.
There was no Dora.
Yeah.
On to you, Jason.
Echoing what the other council members have said, so this was pretty near and dear to me. I mean, Ward 2, most of the university sits in my ward. I reached out to people. I received several phone calls and emails. I would point out that none of which were from the residents of Ward 2. Not one person from my ward spoke up about this. And I would say that all but one of the contacts to me was in support of the closure. We're elected these positions to legislate the city's business on behalf of the people that live in our wards. I will go to bed tonight knowing that I did exactly that. So, thank you.
Very good. And
You'll
with that,
you'll get public comments in a few minutes.
I would simply like to say that with that decision and the investment that the university is about to make goes hand in hand with our vision, this administration's vision of improvement and beautification of the city overall. And that is something worth supporting, truly. And like Jason, I will go to bed tonight knowing that we did the greatest good for the greatest number. And that is our fundamental purpose. Mayor?
All right, well, you've already had a long evening, so I'm going to keep it brief. What I will tell you is, you've already heard me say that this year, we're expecting to resurface approximately 72 of our city streets. We have 315 city streets. We've already resurfaced more than 220 of those, which equates to about 146 lane miles, in case you're counting. And when you consider that every lane mile costs about $135,000 to $150,000 to repair or resurface, we're definitely spending our income tax dollars in a good way right now, because you're all getting to drive on smooth streets. The thing I wanted to tell you, though, tonight is, as I always say when we issue that list of 72 streets, I always add the caveat, it could change. And I do want to let you know, and this is going to be met with some boos at home, I'm sure, West 12th Street and Ohio Street have been pulled for this year. And that is because Columbia Gas is going to do some major repairs that will disrupt that pavement. So in case you were all excited because Ohio Street and West 12th Street were on the list, I just want to tell you right up front, we just found out this past week that Columbia Gas is going to be doing major mainline repairs there, so we're going to postpone those. Now, the good news is, chances are that means we get to do additional streets in other places that weren't on the list, but we have yet to determine which streets those will be. So I appreciate everyone's patience and understanding when it comes to getting your street resurfaced. So I think that's it for me.
All right.
Yep.
We'll move right then to comments and questions from our audience. If someone has something they'd like to address council with, please step up to the podium, state your name, what ward you live in, and for their minutes, and be happy to talk to you about anything that is not on the agenda this evening.
Zachary Castler again, Fourth Ward. I was reading a lot of the comments and everything on there, and I actually had this question as well. How much influence does Ashland University actually have over the city council itself? Like how much of the funding or anything else like that does AU actually do? We all believe in transparency with Ashland. So we would actually like to see that. And one actually did bring it up on there, and I would actually like to try to make this an ordinance for maybe a new agenda for now on streets that would affect public purposes to be an actual vote for the city of Ashland itself, and not just the council. Because a lot of this of what I'm reading, a lot of what I'm getting at, I understand it is your ward, but it affects the city as a whole. And that right there is really disturbing me. And that's disturbing a lot of the public as well. And it is kind of feeling in multiple directions that you guys are losing touch with the actual public than what you guys actually are meant to be. On that note, I will stop at that matter. Lily, go sit down. Okay. That is just something that's really concerning on that part, and maybe that is something maybe we ought to look into about making an ordinance for any more further street closures to actually make it so it's complete public vote for the actual city of Ashland itself. Thank you.
In response, I'd like to say that the university has no influence over this city council. They are part of our city, and this is a council of independent thinkers, extremely conscientious and well-versed people. And what may appear at these meetings like a rubber stamp, I can assure you is not. We get the information well ahead of time of our meetings. We are extremely well prepared, have questions answered, and do our due diligence far in advance of these meetings so that they're run efficiently. And I think this would be a good example of that.
Let me ask you, Mr. Workman. Has anybody contacted you from your ward over Jefferson?
I have talked to many, many people throughout the city.
How many of them were opposed to it?
I'm sorry?
How many were opposed?
2, actually.
Okay. You stated yours earlier, you didn't get much on there. Mr. Miller, how many calls and emails have you received?
I received no calls,
Okay.
several emails in favor.
Ms. Woodward, how many have you received?
I have received 6 in total, 1 against.
Have you guys ever stepped out to maybe ask a few of the public in your area while they're walking around or anything?
Absolutely. I spent the day today on the phone calling my friends and neighbors to ask their opinion on this matter and feel very good and with a total clear conscience in my decision and vote today regarding their feeling on the matter.
Give me 1 second here.
I would also add that, this council is very accessible. We all go to the restaurants in town. We go to the churches here. Our email addresses are on the city website and phone numbers. And we go out of our way so that people can contact us at any time. Now, I had several other emails and text messages that have come in the last 2 weeks that were about sidewalk repairs. They're about speed bumps near the park, about lane lines. And I will tell you, I approach those with the same vigor as any other email, and they're generally returned to those people within 30 minutes. And I work a full-time job elsewhere, but I take the time, as do most of council, that we all work in jobs, well, the ones of us that still work, we work in jobs where our employers know, hey, sometimes I got to deal with this. And we just do.
So on that matter, not all council members I've had easy time actually trying to contact with. I've had to bring in the mayor a few times when I've tried contacting Miss Woodward when I first got in Ashland on my house, or the 716 Cottage. I'm not the only one that's had issues with trying to contact council as well. Come Alive Churches actually have the issue before as well. We've even stated a few things on there. Me and Pastor Andrews has talked about it quite a few different times. And as well as there's places in Ashland Heights, people the same direction. I managed Ashland Heights for a little bit. I've always had people where they have had issues trying to contact them as well. And that's where I tell them and I scare them and say, well, if you can't contact your council member, please go ahead and contact the mayor. But St. Patrick's Day alone, I started going around and just asking people, just randomly. And just in that short time, I had 46 people say they don't agree with it. I have had 4 of them neutral, and I had one say that they were for it. That was just at a holiday event that most of us were all there. So that's where I'm saying we need to try to put the speak out to the public more. Even if it's putting a small ballot in, you know, putting something in the mail, like kind of like the water lines, where you did a little check on there. You get no matter what, a no election. You could put a little water check. You opposed, you agree, name, ward, boom, throw it in the mailbox. Or take it right down here to the ballot board. But either way, I think something like that would be beneficial for the city of Ashland.
You didn't ask, but I received 10 phone calls, 3 emails. I personally spoke to the police, fire, and sheriff, and I must have asked at least 20 different people in person their opinions. No one was in opposition. All were in favor. Only 2 people said they occasionally used that as a cut-through, but they would not be upset if it was closed. And so I did try to find out the public opinion on this.
Yes, and I do know that you're at the Croc Center quite often. I've seen you there a lot. But I think it's just a matter of the public that tries to stay quiet because they feel that their voice doesn't matter. That's the problem that we have.
We hear from the public quite often.
Now-
So I wouldn't suggest they're quiet. We spend a lot of time hearing from the public on a variety of issues and in a variety of different ways. And to say that we aren't familiar as well with what is often said on social media, we see people's comments. We're tagged in those comments. So I think we have somewhat of an understanding of what people's feelings are. Now, the problem is we can't always solve the matter in the way they want it solved, or we can't always give the answer or the result that they want. But believe me, we do listen.
Have you ever drove down Walnut?
I have.
How tight is it in there?
Oh, it's very narrow, especially with the cars parking on the streets. Liberty is another example where it is very tight.
So let's say Grandpa got his Ford Econoline van and he's going down that road. How likely is he able to sideswipe somebody?
Well, hopefully he can navigate it safely enough that he can get through.
When you got cars parked on both sides, with that being the old AAA building, and I remember that very distinctly, especially the squeaky floor. But if you have an older gentleman that does not have very good peripheral vision, they could easily sideswipe. It's going to cause more detrimental harm in the public now getting rid of Jefferson because you've got narrower streets. And I think this is the reason why we need to try to find a different solution for it. And I'm going to go ahead and dress because I know it's late and I also got to get my daughter to bed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment or address council in any way? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.